Where is it?
So what is it that I was looking for? Well, if you remember in episode 1, we were talking about how Prince Edward Island was changing and continues to change, not just socially, but physically, as we witnessed through the devastation of Hurricane Fiona. But we, in spite of all the changes, still have some things that have not changed, that still survive to this day. It is universally good, and it is a provincial centerpiece. From my experience, I am a firm believer that it is wise to know your history. Did you know that Prince Edward Island has more of this than any other province or state in North America? It has saved more lives than any other place in North America. It is Prince Edward Island's lighthouses. We have 63 of them, and 35 of them still are active today. So with our kickstands up, hop on the back seat, and I'll take you on a journey from tip to tip of Prince Edward Island, and we're going to find all the remaining lighthouses, in service or not, and we'll travel down memory lane to the history that has not changed and it still exists to this day. And hopefully we'll find some places that none of us have seen before. Well, our journey begins in Brighton, Charlottetown, Prince Edward Island. Speaking of places that I never visit on a motorcycle, here we are. We're on the hunt for the Brighton Beach lighthouses. Construction began on the first 2 sets of Brighton Beach lights in 1889. The front mast was 12.2 meters tall and was located on the northwest corner of the breakwater of Honorable G.W. Howland's property. The rear mast was 12.8 meters tall and was located on the old asylum grounds, 389 meters due north of the front light. James Galvin was appointed the first keeper of the lights at an annual salary of $100. Here is the Brighton Beach front lighthouse. It is owned and operated now by the city of Charlottetown. It was transferred over from the federal government around 2013. The rear tower, it was blown over by a heavy gale in October the 11th, 1900, forcing a temporary light to be shown from a lantern hoisted between 2 poles. It was rebuilt and then destroyed again in 1930 by a fire. The current Brighton Beach rear lighthouse is the only one of its design in Prince Edward Island. It was completed on December the 24th, 1968 by Williams, Murphy, and McLeod. This octagon-style tower is nicknamed the Apple Core design. The concrete tower is 18.4 meters tall, and it is equipped with a staircase and has 4 vertical windows placed one above the other in its landward face. It is still owned and operated by the Canadian Coast Guard. Victoria Park. I guess you never thought you'd see me riding through Victoria Park. But if the theme of this is memory lane, well, Victoria Park has quite a history to it. Victoria Park was established in 1789 by Governor Edmund Fanning, and prior to the War of 1812, the Prince Edward Battery was established as the fortification battery facing the shipping channel into the Charlottetown Harbour, and it was armed by British regulars as well as the colonial militia. As our journey continues, we're on the lookout for the Hazard Point Range lighthouses. The Hazard Point Range lighthouses are located in Kinloch, just east of Charlottetown, where they overlook the Hillsborough Bay on the south shore of Prince Edward Island. Edwin Stewart was appointed the original keeper of these 2 lights, and his annual salary was $320 a year. Both of these lights are currently residing on private property, so you can't linger long to look at them. Even though both Hazard Point Range lights are on private property, they still emit yellow fixed lights and are still in operation. The rear light is almost identical to the front light. It's just not quite as tapered at the top. Now to find this light, it's a little bit tricky. I'll provide a GPX track later and where you can find it. But you can start to see it as you move along here, and it's just through the trees. Now, this is private property, but there was a man inside there, and I just asked him if I could go in and take a picture, and he didn't have a problem with it. Speaking of new places, I've never been to this one before, or this area. If you go up here to have a look, ask for permission though. Our journey continues to, again, another place in Prince Edward Island that I haven't been to. And in that area, we're looking for a lighthouse called the Brush Wharf Range Rear Lighthouse. The Brush Wharf, also known as Port Selkirk Wharf, was located on the south side of Orwell River. To enter the river, vessels would use the Dowse Point range lights to clear China Point and then pick up Brush Wharf range lights at the rear of the wharf. The Brush Wharf range lights were established in 1899. Daniel W. McPherson served as the keeper, and he was paid $60 a year. There was 2 of these lights. One of them was moved to Dowse Point. This is the original rear that's left. The front was destroyed by fire in October the 26th, 1947, and it was never repaired. This is the wharf that those 2 lights served from 1899 until 1947 when they were decommissioned. The original Brush Wharf Range front lighthouse that was moved to Dowse's Point is still up. However, it's in bad shape, and I had a hard time finding it, but I did end up coming across it after a couple of searches. I'm not sure why, but I always have a soft spot for donkeys, especially miniature donkeys. These guys were in the pasture here with the horses, and what kind of drew me to them is they were so fuzzy. I'm not sure what kind they were, but I've never seen such fuzzy little donkeys before. Leaving the donkeys behind, we're headed off now to Prince Edward Island's oldest and most iconic lighthouse, the Point Prim Lighthouse. In 1841, there was a petition sent by ship owners and other interested groups to the House of Assembly to put a lighthouse in Prince Edward Island. At that time, there wasn't any. After consensus, it was given to the Lieutenant Governor Charles A. Fitz to pick the location of the new lighthouse. He consulted captains from the Royal Navy, and after consulting with them, the decision was made that the light should be put at Point Prim. And by November the 21st, 1844, the project was slated to begin with a cost of 156 British pounds for the tower, 358 British pounds for the light, and $90 for a cottage. Then in December the 4th, 1845, the Point Prim Lighthouse was lit for the very first time. John Ings was appointed the first keeper of the lights. His annual salary was $50. The lighthouse was also used extensively through World War II to aid pilots flying from Mount Pleasant and Summerside to aid navigation by night. The light is now recognized as a heritage place under the Prince Edward Island Heritage Places Protection Act. Our journey continues to a well-known place to most of us. It's the Wood Islands Ferry Terminal, and to be honest, I have never taken the time to go out here and have a look at the lights. There's a couple of ways to get here. You can take this main road, which is very nice. It's a nice smooth road with lots of scenery on it. Or you can head down some of Prince Edward Island's oldest roads. This is the Jack's Heritage Road, and then there's also the Klondike Road. Now if you're a history person, you can take the time to look for the old Weatherby homestead. It's on this road. I'll provide information in the comment section about the Weatherby homestead. After Klondike is the County Line Road. These are some of Prince Edward Island's oldest roads. Whether you decide to take the heritage roads or the main roads, this is our destination this time. This is the Wood Islands family lighthouses. Formerly known as Port Woods, the community of Wood Islands is located along the Northumberland Strait on the southernmost point of Prince Edward Island. The harbour here has long played an important role in the island's history. A mail run between Wood Islands and Pictou, Nova Scotia was the island's only connection to the mainland until 1827, and today the last ferries to serve the island link the same two ports. The main Wood Islands Lighthouse was constructed in 1875, with the light being lit for the first time in the autumn of 1876. On September the 6th, 1902, the range lights were established and put into operation as an additional guide to help mariners enter the Wood Islands Harbour. The front range tower was placed 15 meters from the outer end of the south breakwater on the east side of the entrance of the harbour, while the back range tower was placed on a gravel beach 213 meters from the front tower. A shed was attached to the front range tower in 1946 to house fog alarm equipment. It was known as the Trumpet. This road that we're coming down from was built from the material dredged from the harbour in preparation for the ferry service that began in 1941. Our journey continues from one famous light station to another. In 1880, the Cape Bear Lighthouse was built. The main reason for building it was to aid in the development of the fishing industry in the southeast shore. Originally housed a revolving red catatropic light that produced a bright light every 30 seconds that could be seen from a distance of 12 miles away. Cape Bear became famous because a Marconi wireless telegraph station was built there in 1905, and on the night of April the 14th, 1912, the keeper received the first distress signal in Canada from the Titanic as it was sinking off the coast of Newfoundland. Cape Bear Lighthouse also became famous during World War II. The Cape Bear Lighthouse provided useful for spotting German U-boats that approached the coast. Several were seen along the shore but disappeared after being tracked. If you notice, the top was off the old lighthouse, and after inquiring I found out they had taken the top off and had given it to a metal work company to refurbish and repair it after Fiona damaged it. Only a few miles northwest of Cape Bear is the Murray Harbour Range lighthouses. They were established in 1869. If you have an adventure bike and you've got some decent tires on it, there is a nice little side path into the lighthouse that you can take. It's some fairly well maintained dirt roads and things, but it's nice scenery and it's a change of pace. I'll provide those in the GPX tracks that will follow. The Murray Harbour Range lights were established because John Brooks and other inhabitants of the place petitioned the island's government for a grant to erect lights at the entrance of the harbour. So John Chapman and James Penny were each given $10 apiece to construct the lights. Upon assessment of the original beacons in 1878, it was found that the original beacons were no longer efficient and could no longer handle the traffic coming in and out of Murray Harbour. Therefore, the Department of Ottawa provided plans and specifications for a new tower and new ranges. So Joseph Egan of Mount Stewart received $850 contract to build the long-awaited range towers in Murray Harbour. Work began in 1878 and the lights were lit in November. After a little walk out to the beach, you'll find here the Murray Harbour Range. This is the front. This little lighthouse was swept to sea in December 2010 by storm surges. It was dragged back in by the Department of Fisheries, refurbished, rebuilt, and put back into service on July the 27th, 2011. at a grand cost of $75,000, and it's still in operation today. If you're in the area or decide to go on the lighthouse journey, this squat little guy is worthwhile going out to see. It's quite an adventure to get out there, and the scenery is impressive. Not very far away from the front range light is the rear range light. Keeping these Murray Harbour lights running was a family affair, as James Penny was the keeper from 1878 to 1897. He was followed by Robert Penny and Robert Curtis Penny. The rear light was sometimes referred to as Penny's lights. The front light was also known as the beach light. Emerson McLeod and Curtis Penny were serving as keepers of the range lights in 1963 when the lights were electrified. The present front range light stands 7.2 meters tall and has a vertical red stripe on its seaward face and displays a fixed red light. Its companion rear range light stands 13.6 meters tall, also features a red stripe on its white tower, and exhibits a fixed red light, a focal plane of 7.8 meters. If you decide to go down and visit the Murray Harbour rear range light, pay attention to the signs that are around for private property. Ask for permission if you want to look closer, and take your time on this little road. I would say it could be wet, and if you're worried about it, park at the end of the road and walk down. It's not very far. Heading west now towards Murray River, we're looking now for the Dowse Point Range lighthouses. Now this little guy, I found him hard to find. I looked and looked for him. Finally, I found him. Remember we talked earlier about the Brush Range lights was moved? Well, this is the one that was moved from Brush Range. David Hunter, who grew up in the area, recalls spending his summers with the keepers. Hunter recalls that an earlier keeper would go down to the range lights with a cart pulled by an old horse wearing a straw hat with 2 holes cut on the top for his ears. He said it was to keep the horse from getting spooked in the evenings. Heading northeast from Murray River, we're heading up from Point Pleasant, Murray Harbour North, Pembroke and Gaspereau to a place called the Tenere Island Head Lighthouse. Tenere Head Lighthouse is one of 6 lighthouses that was built in Prince Edward Island pre-Confederation. This one was built in 1851 at a cost of approximately 620 British pounds. The Tenere Head Lighthouse was placed there at the advice of Captain Henry W. Bayfield, who was surveying the Gulf of St. Lawrence. Given his opinion, he said, I quote, "A light properly placed on Tenere Point, the northeast extremity of Tenere Island, would answer the double purpose of leading into the harbour of Georgetown and of guiding vessels clear of the dangerous Bear Reef, whilst its disappearance behind Botten Island would, in like manner, be a guide to vessels all along the coast, far up towards the East Point, and would thus be far more useful as a coast light than it would be if it was placed on Botten Island." William J. MacDonald was the final keeper of the Tenere Head Lighthouse. He retired in 1985 upon the automation of the lighthouse, and the nearby keeper's dwelling was rented to his daughter Margaret and her husband Roger MacLeod. The couple later purchased the house, and for many years they opened the lighthouse to the public during the summer months on behalf of the Tenere Island Lighthouse Association. The Fresnel lens was removed from the lantern room around 2010 and has been replaced with a modern beacon. If you decide to do the lighthouse tour, make sure to visit Tenere Island. It's worth your time.
And the scenery just keeps changing, but these folks, they just stay the same. Same old fearful lies are staring, asking me to take the blame for their shame, for their shame.
The journey continues next time as we explore the northeast corner of Prince Edward Island's lighthouses and adventure where we've never adventured before. Take care.